Okay, so let me put this hypothetical scenario in your head. You're at a GameStop looking for something new to play. Nothing particular, just whatever grabs you. What is one of the main things that will draw you in? If you said the box art, congratulations, you know how to answer based on context clues. The box art for any video game is one of the most important things to get right. It's a way for a game to stand up tall and say, hey, this is what I'm about. Don't like it? Drive off a cliff. It's been a bit of a bumpy road with video game covers looking way too good at the start for what you were actually given. Thankfully, over time, things would get better with the overall game quality improving, leading it to be able to match the quality of its box art. Nowadays, you can make the argument that box arts aren't what they used to be because they're based on some popular IP, thus gain sales from brand recognition, leading to the most basic looking box arts ever and blah blah blah, who cares? We aren't here to talk about all that. You have a basic understanding of a box art, its importance, and a little bit of history. So, with that knowledge, I present to you the most important question. How do I make this about FNAF? FNAF games have an interesting history with box art, considering they don't really have one, but also they do at the same time. It's a bit confusing. I highly recommend sticking around to the very end, because there's more than meets the eye with the subject, like how Cawthon himself has made official box art for some of the early games, and how there's a special edition security breach box art. For now though, let's start with the original games. It's no secret that FNAF for the longest time was only a game you could purchase online, so there really wasn't a special art made meant to represent the game for a general audience. The most common way to play it was via Steam, and the layout at the time didn't show any cover art. However, years later Steam would update with it now having digital art covers, or known as heroes, or whatever, but I'm not calling it that. FNAF was one of the many games to get the digital art treatment, and you might look at these and think, huh, these aren't bad. That's because they're fan-made. I got these custom covers over on SteamGridDB. I don't mean to sound like a sponsor or anything, but this site is pretty useful when getting alternative art assets for any game. I'll be linking it down below for anyone interested in that kind of stuff. As for the actual covers for these games, it bugs me to no end that the art doesn't fully take up the layout. To be fair, these games were on Steam way before digital covers were added, so it isn't like Scott uploaded this with the intent of the image later being used in a different format. What you see right here is just Steam using the default image that was also used on the store page. There isn't a point in covering each one in detail because it's not really much to say. It's just bear, logo, bunny, logo, bear, logo, logo. Wait, this one has two bears. Huh, I didn't expect us to be done that quickly. I guess the video's over. Bye. Wait, I forgot about the console versions. Yes, when FNAF made its debut to consoles, it came with some new digital cover arts. I hate to take a sudden detour, but I literally do not know when else I can bring this up. The console trailer for these games are weird. Like, if you watch it without looking for anything in particular, it's fine. Until on rewatch where for some reason FNAF 3 Phantom Foxy is present on night 1, and also Phantom Puppet shows up during night 2. And in FNAF 4, the time is set at 8 AM. I don't know, just something weird I noticed, and if I have to have that knowledge, so do you. Getting back on track, the digital release of FNAF 1 through Pizzeria Simulator led to these games getting cover arts for the store page. How are they? Well, let's take a closer look. The cover for the original FNAF game is actually pretty good. Yeah, sure, it's just already made assets thrown together, but it was nicely thrown together. Come on now, we have to show respect for when a good throw is done. I like how Freddy's in front of the office, you know, showcasing the main animatronic, while in the background it foreshadows the room you'll be spending your entire playthrough in. Plus, the red logo on top is a nice contrast from the purposeful dull colors. Again, it's nicely done, something I don't know I can fully save for the sequel. I mean, at first glance it seems to be doing the same thing as FNAF 1 with the animatronics and the red logo, however this one falters with the small changes it does to that concept, like not doing an office background, and putting a worser logo, and adding more animatronics. This would be the part where I say something like, I get what they were going for by showcasing all the new animatronics in one cover, except no, it's obvious it's only the unfiltered menu with a logo slapped right on, having zero thoughts whatsoever if it looks good. And it doesn't. The first one obviously didn't take too long to make, but it was simple and made perfect use of the images already made for the game. Is FNAF 3 any better than this? Yeah, actually, it's definitely an improvement over the last one. In fact, I'd say it's on par with the first one. We're back to one animatronic, a dark office in the background, and a nice looking logo. There isn't much to complain about here, other than the fact that the cover might be a little too dark. You know, a little brightness wouldn't kill anyone. How does the box art for FNAF 4 factor into this? I gotta be completely honest with you viewers. I was writing the script in one go until I had to talk about this box art, to which I looked at it and said, yeah, no, I don't have it in me to do this. Then I went to bed. After a good night's sleep, I still don't think I can, though it won't stop me from trying. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Weird choice to have one there. It doesn't really fit the game at all. Get rid of that. That said, this logo's terrible! Unlike FNAF 2, there at least was an idea tested here. It just so happens it was done poorly. Justice for the letter E in the logo, because with these lines it makes it look like an 8. It's clear this is the FNAF 4 menu with not many changes done to it, and while that isn't inherently bad, it fails to display what the hell the game even is by cutting off the house. You know, the place where the game takes place in. Honestly, not knowing anything about this game, and you're looking at this box art by itself, and now it looks like you're spending 5 nights in these bushes with these guys. The part that stings the most was the fact that this box art had everything to make it look good. I mean, could you imagine the animatronics looking at the house from afar with the bloody logo? That would have looked amazing. Unfortunately, we're left with this. Do things get better with sister location? Yes. No. Concept-wise, it's fine. My only problem here is how weirdly proportionate things are. Please, Circus Baby, just take a few steps back, and someone give the logo one of those size pills. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say. It's fine. Bonus points for the blue theme. Up next, we have Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. This is easily one of the best looking box arts we've seen so far, as it perfectly uses the art already made for the menu to make it fit a different size format. My only problem is not with the box art itself, but the art in general, with how the pizza looks. The toppings on the pizza never crossed my mind until now, and looking at them, I swear they look like the ingredients from a SpongeBob Krabby Patty gummy. Overall though, looks great, no real problems, and with that, we're done with the box arts for the FNAF digital console versions. Don't go anywhere just yet, because we're only getting started. I mentioned it briefly at the start that Cawthon did in fact make some box art for the earlier games. As previously established though, they aren't on Steam. So then, where are they? IndieDB would be your answer, a website that I'll admit I don't know too much about, but from the looks of things seems like a place where small game developers post and share updates on their projects. Locating Scott's old account, and we come across official box arts for FNAF 1, 2, 3, Not You, and Sister Location. First up, the original game. It's nice to see one of the images used to promote the game was later used as the official box art, even if it's weird to see the endo get cut off like that. At that point, you can't even tell what it is. Maybe some bendy straw or something. The logo also could be better because it's the most basic font in the world. There is a little nostalgic part of my brain telling me the font used here is great and the image cut off is perfectly fine, though when I ask my brain to elaborate, all I get is a shrug. Overall, it's a solid box art, even if I prefer the console edition more. FNAF 2 on the other hand is a big step up. What's this? An actual background this time? Oh, and it's also kept simple with one animatronic. Withered Freddy is the perfect choice for being in a box art, because it may not have been intentional, but putting these two covers next to each other shows that these are complete opposites, in a good way. Freddy goes from right to left, the logo changes from top left to bottom right. You may consider this a stretch, which is completely fair. I personally think it's a fun way to view the art. Not the logo though, that still sucks. Hey, a 2 out of 3 is still better than a... Alright, FNAF 3 time. What do you got for me, Scott? Okay, let's talk about this. Remember the FNAF 3 trailer? Well, let's take this shot, and BAM! Is what I assume was the thought process behind Scott when making this. It's not that it's bad, it's just not good. Do I even need to explain why having the box art be a shot from the trailer is going to make it easily the lamest cover, especially when the others didn't do that? Thankfully, the next one, Sister Location, would be a massive improvement. Also, for those who forgot, no, I didn't skip over FNAF 4. There isn't a box art by Scott for that one. Why exactly? I don't know. Sister Location's box art is not only better than the console version, it's the best cover from Scott. The logo finally isn't an eyesore, and the blue lighting looks fantastic. Please don't think I'm being biased. While Circus Baby may be the main animatronic within Sister Location, it's a smart move to put Funtime Freddy front and center. When you put all the good Scott Cawthon box arts together, you can tell the first and the second one contain the same Freddy, even if he gets dirty between games. Now with this Freddy, he looks completely different, so you know you're dealing with a different one. There isn't even a FNAF logo in this one. The new Freddy is enough for you to figure out you'll be spending 5 nights in a completely different location. A sister location. Because of a joke? You're arresting me because of a joke?
Sir, there is footage of you jaywalking.
Oh heavens. The last box art from the Scott Cawthon era we'll be looking at is the one for Ultimate Custom Night, which has one cover and one cover only. Sorry, I did a thing called line. The console version sucks, let's just leave it at that. There's no reason to talk about it when the PC version looks infinitely better and it's just more interesting to talk about. It represents everything strongly with how many fan favorite characters on screen, plus their difficulty levels being set to 20, all topped off with a great looking logo right in the middle. Everything here looks great. I even enjoy the black border that surrounds the image. Overall, this was a great note to leave off on before entering the next era of FNAF, one that would have games you can buy physical versions of, meaning the art would now be in physical form. Before we get into that, we first need to talk about the build up to Help Wanted. During this time, we got a teaser image displaying a partial bit of the cover art. Then we would eventually get to take a look at the very first real box art for the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Ah! It's no secret nowadays that the art made to promote the game had a fan design used, being Spring Bonnie. This was quickly fixed, with Scott issuing an apology to the fandom for an honest mistake, so all is well. The final box art for Help Wanted rules. I would say it's my favorite of the entire franchise. This is exactly why I don't own a physical version of it. I already own it digitally, plus the physical versions like the Switch have a size format I don't think ever looks good for third-party games. And the PS4 version is way too cluttered with PSVR info for my taste. Without all that, the art itself, again, is one of my favorites. I love the red neon light and how it reflects onto the animatronics at the bottom. The way these guys have a weird, gooey connection to each other is such a fantastic concept that was executed flawlessly. It's one of those things you can look at and come up with your own interpretation of what it means. I personally like the idea of this being some sort of precursor to the amalgamation known unofficially as Tangle, who would make their debut in the game after Help Wanted, aka Security Breach. Tangle is most commonly believed to be a blob of agony, not necessarily from the souls of anyone, instead being made from the emotions of what William Afton's victims felt. After looking at their design and then the box art for Help Wanted, hopefully you can see where I'm coming from with my interpretation, even when they aren't actually connected in any way. Lastly, for positives, is the choice to have all the characters' eyes be completely blank, except for Nightmarion and Toy Freddy. Nightmarion, I can get why they wouldn't have the white eyes. Now Toy Freddy, that's where I draw the line. It's one of the two elements I would say makes the art actively worse than it should have been, with my other being how the background isn't anything too special. That aside, this is an excellently made cover art. Before we get into Security Breach, we first need to address the game that came in between, Five Nights at Freddy's The Core Collection. Don't be mistaken, we aren't going over the digital console versions again. No, we have one physical box art meant to represent the classic games from 1 through Sister Location. Oh, sorry, that was a placeholder image. Let me just get that out of the way for... Is it too late to get back the placeholder? What is this? I'll tell you what. Bad, awful, cheap, dreadful, inferior, lousy, poor, terrible, whatever else is on this website. To be fair, I am showing an image of what's only available physically, so it could be possible that it looks better in person. Not that I need to go out and buy it to make sure.
Itself, the picture for Five Nights at Freddy's Core Collection.
After making my contribution to society, I am now the proud owner of FNAF for the Nintendo Switch. You might be wondering, Blue, why did you get the Switch version? I thought you said the cover art for third-party games looked worse. And while that is true, what was I supposed to do? Get the PS4 version? After making another contribute to society, I am now the owner of 2 physical copies of the Core Collection. You know what? I think it took 2 versions of these for me to safely say this sucks. Like, yeah, it gets the point across it's FNAF and you're getting the entire series up until Sister Location, but that's all it does. The thing that sucks the most is the fact this was almost good. The idea of having Freddy here with the background showing off the other games would have been amazing, except the only one that gets representation is FNAF 2. Really, all they need to do was either fill the background with props from each installment, or let the background show off important areas from each game. That way it's like, you know, a good representation of what you're purchasing. If you think this is the worst of the worst, you're right, though there is a contender one to take that title. Here we have the digital cover art version of the collection. Except this one's its own thing, it's only available in the Microsoft Store and only contains the first 4 entries. Now, the image I'm showing may be a little small, but do you really want to see this thing any closer? At least this one bothers showing off each game, even if it's basic renders of the animatronics. Nah, I can't even be that upset, as this was only a means to sell the first 4 games in a bundle before the core collection was made, and not some big collection every hardcore fan needs to buy, so they didn't even need to make a cover. You know what, in that scenario, they shouldn't have made anything. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is the next mainline game. The box art here is... well, why bother to beat around the bush? It looks fantastic. While researching about this cover, I did come across a problem people had with it, although it was a small amount, in that this poster falls into the generic Hollywood poster. I could see where they're coming from with that. Like, I do think Glamrock Freddy does a little too much of a superhero-y pose for my taste. Other than that, I'd still consider this great. I like the character's poses, the floating props within the background, the vanity on top with the glowing eyes, and the neon border complements the 80s theme. It's an all-around pretty render of the main cast. Except that's all you can say about it. FNAF is a horror series at the end of the day, and this render doesn't invoke any type of fear. Other FNAF box arts, regardless of their quality, do have some fear factor with its animatronics looking lifeless, yet also somewhat alive at the same time. Here it's all shiny and, again, pretty. I'm almost okay with that because what we've lost in horror, we got a wonderful looking render. So at the end of the day, it comes down to preference. I still enjoy this box art, it's just not my favorite. And this one's really not my favorite. Help 1 and 2 I remember like it was yesterday, where the cover was revealed and the fandom was completely split on if it was good or not. Where did I stand at the time? I thought it looked a bit too generic and a step down from Help Wanted. I did also think at the time it would eventually grow on me, and I guess it did to an extent, but it's still one of my least favorite box arts from Steel Wool. So what doesn't work here? Well, I think it's pretty lame they decide to edit old renders of some of the animatronics instead of creating some new ones. It is also weak in terms of representation. Did we really need 5 whole Security Breach characters in this? You can easily remove one of the daycare attendants and the map bot in replacement of, oh, I don't know, the pizzeria sim characters? Circus Baby's presence really confuses me because she was already in the first game's cover, so at that point, why not have this be Scrap Baby? If I could say one positive thing, it would be that I like how they have a wired thing going on at the bottom that I assume connects to all the characters on screen, even if that just makes me think of the first cover where they were weirdly morphed together, which looked a lot cooler. In the end, the box art feels a little bit rushed and done last minute due to renders being reused and having an unbalanced character representation. At least for the physical copies, it isn't covered in VR info, even if I'm still not going to get that one anytime soon. But Blue, I hear you say. Walmart has an exclusive version with a sticker inside. To which I say, what am I supposed to do? Buy it for that reason only? They get me every time! The last box art we'll be taking a look at is one that I made sure to save for last. About a year after Security Breach was released, Steel Wool decided to drop a collector's edition filled with tons of goodies, including a new Steelbook cover for the game. I picked it up when it was released, and while it may not be the best version to pick up if you haven't played the game, I think it's great for those who either love the title or want another piece of FNAF physical media to display. If we're judging this only from the front and the front only like I did with all the other games, then yeah, this is pretty weak. However, since this is a collector's edition, I feel it's fair to take a look at it a bit more, like the back of it. This render here is one of my favorite things to come out of Security Breach. Gregory holding Freddy's hand, or at least what he can, with the glowing star right behind them. Ooh, it just hits me in the right emotions. Since we're here, we might as well check the inside since it has some more renders to look at. It's a good thing only one of the daycare attendants is here. I don't know if I could have handled the other. Overall, the Steelbook cover is both and great, depending on how you're judging it. I mean, hey, between these two sides, I personally like displaying the back. There you have it, a look at every FNAF box art. Feel free to tell me down below your personal favorite or least favorite from the series. If you haven't already, I recommend picking up at least one physical copy of any of the FNAF games, because seriously, these can look really nice on a shelf. Except for another core collection. Viewers, I need you to agree with me now to never pick up a third version of FNAF core collection. Darn.